Title: The Property Line. Chapter 1: The Stakes. James Carter stood at his kitchen window, watching the morning light creep across his backyard. The grass was still damp with dew, the flower beds neatly tended, just as Margaret had liked them. 3 years since the cancer took her, and he still maintained every inch of the property they'd bought together 40 years ago. That's when he saw them. 6 bright orange survey stakes, hammered into his soil overnight, forming a straight line from the old oak tree to the corner of his tool shed. His coffee turned to acid in his throat. Scene 1. The Confrontation. Mike Donovan was already outside, his meaty arms crossed over a sweat-stained tank top. At 6'4" with a prison tattoo peeking above his collar, he looked every inch the ex-con his real estate agent had warned James about. "Morning, neighbor." Mike's grin showed too many teeth. "Just getting my bearings." James's slippers sank into the wet grass as he approached. "Your bearings are in my flower beds." Mike held out a folded paper. "County records say different." The document looked official enough, raised seal, typed coordinates, but the math was impossible. James had walked this land with the original surveyor when he bought the place in '82. He knew every inch. "You forged this." Mike's smile didn't waver. "Prove it." Scene 2. The Paper Trail. Inside, James spread his own property maps across the kitchen table, the edges frayed from decades of use. Margaret's handwriting still marked their favorite spots: asterisk, blue hydrangeas planted here, May '93, asterisk, her cursive as familiar as his own heartbeat. The phone rang. "Jim, it's Bob at the county office." His old friend's voice was tight. "That survey." It was filed by a firm that went out of business in 2003. "Someone's playing games." James's fingers trembled as he hung up. Through the window, he saw Mike's teenage son revving a dirt bike along the newly claimed strip of land, tearing up Margaret's peonies. Scene 3. The First Shot. The police officer shifted his weight on the porch. "Without a current survey to contradict theirs, it's a civil matter." James pointed to the destroyed flowers. "And that? Kids will be kids." The cop shrugged. "Take it to small claims court." That night, James lay awake listening to the Donovans' latest party, bass shaking his walls, beer bottles shattering against the fence. At 2:17 a.m., a new sound cut through the noise. Asterisk clang. 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 Asterisk. He peered through the blinds to see Mike hammering posts for a chain-link fence, 2 feet inside James's property, right through Margaret's rose garden. Scene 4. The Breaking Point. The lawyer's office smelled of lemon polish and defeat. "Fight it and you'll spend $20,000 and 2 years in court," Attorney Reynolds said. "Or you can let it go." James walked home past the half-built fence, its metal teeth gleaming in the sunset. That's when he heard the whimper. Muffin, his 16-year-old tabby, dragged herself toward him, her hind leg twisted in a steel-jawed trap. Blood matted her fur where the serrated teeth had bitten to the bone. The vet's words echoed in the sterile clinic air. This was set intentionally. "I'm required to report it." James stroked Muffin's head as the sedative took effect. Through the window, the Donovan boy laughed while doing burnouts on James's lawn. That's when the old rage, the Korea 53 rage, the kind Margaret had gentled out of him, stirred in his chest. Chapter 2. The Fire History. James sat in the dim glow of his basement workbench, Muffin purring in a makeshift bed beside him as he cleaned his old Army-issue revolver. The smell of gun oil mixed with the sharp medicinal tang from the vet's wrappings on Muffin's leg. He'd spent the afternoon at the county clerk's office, digging through property records. The Donovans' last address, a rental on the south side, had burned to the ground 6 months prior. The fire marshal's report called it suspicious, but no charges were filed. A knock at the door startled him. Scene 1. The Warning. Mrs. Peterson from across the street stood on his porch, clutching her cardigan. "I didn't want to say anything, but—" She glanced at the Donovan house, where Mike was pressure-washing his driveway, shirtless in the November chill. Their last neighbors moved out in the middle of the night. "Left everything behind." She pressed a newspaper clipping into James's hand, a police report about a missing dog. The photo showed a smiling family standing where the Donovans' charred rental had been. "Their golden retriever vanished the week before the fire," she whispered. Scene 2. The Garden Secret. James waited until midnight to dig. The moon cast long shadows over Margaret's rose garden as his shovel struck something metal 2 feet down. A fireproof lockbox, the combination rusted shut. Margaret's handwriting on top, asterisk, for Jimmy, if you ever need it. Asterisk. Inside. A deed from 1982 showing the original property line 3 feet farther into what was now Donovan territory. A notarized letter from Old Man Henderson, the previous owner, asterisk, the northwest oak marks the true boundary. The county maps are wrong. Asterisk. A .38 revolver, loaded. James's breath fogged in the cold air. Margaret had known this day would come. Scene 3, the trap. He rigged the motion light over the tool shed to activate his old hunting camera. 3 nights later, it caught Mike's son sneaking onto his property at 3 a.m., pouring liquid over James's woodpile. The footage was crystal clear. Gasoline. James sat at the kitchen table as dawn broke, the video playing on loop, Muffin's bandages needing changing. The Donovans weren't just bullies. They were arsonists. Scene 4, the veteran's solution. The VA support group had taught James coping strategies, breathing exercises, stress balls. But as he watched Mike hammer the final panel of the illegal fence through his bedroom window, he heard Margaret's voice from their last anniversary. Asterisk, some men only understand one language, darling. Asterisk. In the basement, his footlocker from Korea held exactly what he needed. Chapter 3, the alibi. The grandfather clock in James' hallway struck midnight as he wiped down the last of his tools. The garage reeked of gasoline and gun oil, a combination that would have sent Margaret into a coughing fit. He could almost hear her voice. Asterisk, Jimmy, you'll blow us both to kingdom come with those fumes. Asterisk. A sharp pain lanced through his chest as he chuckled. Not heartache. Angina. The doctor had warned him about stress. Scene 1, the setup. James spent Tuesday afternoon at the VFW post, playing chess with old Sergeant Malone. Deliberate. Visible. You're distracted tonight, Malone said, capturing James' rook. Just thinking about Margaret. Not entirely a lie. At precisely 8:17 p.m., James excused himself to use the restroom. The security camera above the urinals would show him entering. It wouldn't show the window above the toilet, left unlatched last week during cleaning. Scene 2, the fire. The Donovans' garage went up like a tinderbox at 8:43 p.m. From 2 blocks away, James watched the flames lick at Mike's prized Mustang through his binoculars. The vintage gas can he'd borrowed from Mike's own shed now sat in his trunk, wiped clean except for one perfect thumbprint on the handle. He was back at the VFW by 8:58, flushing the unused toilet for the cameras. Scene 3, the investigation. Police Chief Wilkins stood on James' porch at dawn, hat in hands. Jim, I gotta ask, where were you last night? James handed over the VFW security footage. Playing chess until closing. Why? Wilkins studied the timestamp. Donovan's garage burned. Their dog didn't make it out. James' angina flared. He hadn't known about the dog. Scene 4, Margaret's gift. The lockbox contained one final item beneath the gun, a faded photo of young Margaret standing beside a burned barn. Her handwriting on the back. Asterisk, Daddy took care of the men who hurt my horse. Sometimes justice needs no witness. Asterisk. The date, 1952. Chapter 4, the reckoning. The first snow of winter dusted Margaret's roses as James knelt by the garden, his breath coming in short, painful gasps. The angina had worsened since the fire, not that he'd tell Dr. Simmons. The old physician would have hospitalized him immediately, and James couldn't afford that now. Scene 1, the anonymous tip. Chief Wilkins returned on a Tuesday morning, this time with a search warrant, for the Donovan property. Got an anonymous call, he said, stamping snow from his boots on James' welcome mat. Said we'd find something interesting buried by their tool shed. James sipped his coffee, watching from the window as officers dug. They found 7 pet collars, all with traces of blood. Scene 2, the parole violation. Mike Donovan's arrest made the evening news. Parole violation for failure to disclose prior offenses. The camera caught him screaming at reporters. This is a goddamn setup. James turned up the volume on Margaret's old console TV. The reporter explained how someone had mailed prison records to the parole board, documents showing Mike's involvement in a dogfighting ring back in '08. The postmark date: the day before the fire. Scene 3, the final gift. The chest pain became a knife. James fumbled with the nitroglycerin pills as he collapsed against the kitchen counter. Through the window, he saw the new for sale sign on the Donovan lawn. Margaret's voice whispered from the hallway, "Asterisk, almost done, Jimmy." Asterisk. His fingers brushed the photo in his pocket. Young Margaret by that burned barn. Scene 4, the last rose. The EMTs found him in the garden, clutching a frostbitten rose in one hand and the lockbox key in the other. Chief Wilkins knelt beside the gurney. "Don't you die on me, you old bastard. Who else will beat me at chess?" James smiled as the snowflakes melted on his face. The new neighbors moved in the day of his funeral, a young couple with a rescue greyhound. The wife planted a rosebush where they found James. Its name? Margaret's Justice. The end.